Bienvenidos nuevamente a Colombia 4.0. Estamos aquí cerrando esta agenda académica tan impresionante que tenemos con expertos de cada una de las áreas que en Colombia 4.0 tenemos como ítems importantes. Recordemos que estos espacios son organizados por el Ministerio TIC y que Colombia 4.0 es el encuentro de los ecosistemas de innovación digital. Entonces, finalizando este encuentro, damos paso a la conferencia de Colombian Promise, dada por Adam Boyce, desde su empresa Iron Galaxy Estudios. Démosle la bienvenida a Adam a este espacio que tendremos con él. Bienvenido, Adam.
Gracias. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Good? Awesome. I love this quaint audience. This is perfect for our talk today. Before we get into this awesome topic about how Colombia is going to be the future of video games, I'd like us to give a round of applause for the amazing translators in the back that have been working their asses off for 2 days straight. So let's give it up for them. And our wonderful sign language interpreter up there as well. Let's give it up for all the hard work being done. Right here, the future of video games is in Colombia. And this is an important part I want to touch on today because there's so many opportunities in this wonderful country. I've had the pleasure of spending time over the last 8 years coming to visit Colombia. But before we get into the bright shininess, we kind of have to start with a reality check. First of all, Feliz Halloween. Not as many people today dressed up. But it's an important sort of transition because right now the games industry is in scary times. Right? We see a lot of negative headlines about the things that are occurring throughout the industry. So I've been going around asking people what they feel like the hardest parts and the biggest challenges are in video games. Survive till 25. I have bad news. 2025 is only in 2 months. So hopefully if you're here, we're good. But this has been the theme, and so many things have impacted our industry. So when I started to ask people what things that they are seeing negatively about the games industry, they just have fear, right? Studios are shutting down. People are losing their jobs. There's the fear of unknown. TikTok is stealing our eyeballs, right? I spent 2 hours last night just on my phone watching TikTok, buying only 3 things off the TikTok shop. There's, Gen Z. We have a new generation of gamers and players and workers as well, right? We also have discoverability. Where do we find games? How do we search them out? How do we know what our friends are doing and how they're playing? We also have COVID, obviously. That was a big problem that brought us all home and made us work remotely, and that was a challenge that many studios faced. We have the stocks market. These are publicly traded companies, and so we have to listen to what the stock market tells studios to do and companies to do many times. The American capitalism. I luckily live in America, but I am Canadian, so I'm allowed to especially make fun of Americans, those greedy bastards, okay? So this is one of the issues, too, that's challenging. The platform cuts, right? Each platform's taking 30% of revenue. So this is a big challenge for many of the companies as you plan. Roblox. Just right now we had talking about UEFN and the amount of hours my kids have spent in this ecosystem without spending a lot of money is really challenging. It's drawing eyeballs away. Gamers now want more for less. They want us to make our games for free, give them so much value, and that's a big complaint I hear from a lot of game developers. And of course we have, what are the options? There are so many options to choose from out there. I can download a million things right now and play for hundreds of hours without spending one single penny, right? Wishful thinking. Many of us are artists in the games industry. We want to make something inspiring and wishful, right? So we go out there and we're like, we're going to get our friends together. We're going to make something cool. And we're going to put it out, and then we could pay our salaries and pay our mortgage. Isn't always the case. Mostly isn't the case, right? But we don't want to quash that as an industry. User acquisition. How do we attract people to our games? Stores are overrun, right? A lot of challenges there. Games as a service. We're expected to give a new update every week, every month. And that's a massive drain on game development, right? Because you're just focusing on churning to the next thing and to the next thing. So that's a big list, and I didn't come here to close the show to make everyone scared and afraid of the reality of the games industry today. right? We have to look at the challenges we're facing as an industry and then figure out how we move forward. The good news is, right here in this beautiful country, we have a ton of incredibly passionate people that want to make a difference. And so that's what I want to talk about, right? I want to talk about how we can level up Colombia as a group effort to make it as impressive as a video game hub around the globe. We'll start with, of course, the beautiful locations all throughout this country. I've spent so many hours over the last week with everyone talking about how passionate they are, that they're from Cali or Cartagena, and everyone talking about their stories of growing up here and the beauty of all these wonderful places. So that's something to be very proud of as a nation. We have incredible games being built from many studios here, right? Echo from Madbricks. We've got the Killer Clowns from Outer Space that TerraVision co-developed. We've got Aniquilation from Our Next. We've got, Decoherence from Effecto Studios. So many cool things are being built here in Colombia. So not only do we have the locations that are incredible, we have the studios that are compelling and growing, we also have a lot of investments. We have a lot of overseas people that are coming here, a lot of multinational companies. They're investing, building games here, which is amazing, right? Recently, Square Enix, Bandai Namco, Unity, and even at this conference, it's amazing to see talks from Electronic Arts and Sony and Konami, right? So Colombia is clearly getting the attention of the world, and that's fantastic. It's been happening for many years, but it's great to see that momentum, right? But how do we as a community, the royal we, try to keep leaning into that to make sure we have more people and more awareness? The good news is it starts right here with these incredible people in this room. Many of you that I see in this audience are in some of these pictures, right? The developers that I met with over all these years are the inspiring part, I think, of what makes Colombia special. The passion, the vision that they have for product, right? And just the fact that they're fighting every day to make great content for the world. But it's not just the people alone that can do this, right? It was just these people trying to push hard, and I know I couldn't include every studio, so I'm sorry if your studio wasn't included. But it's important for us to focus on how we can level up as a nation, as a country, right? Because it's not just by the people. We need support, right? So one of the things, I've been traveling all around the world, meeting with many different countries and studios in Poland, in Sweden, in Montreal, all throughout Germany, Romania, and trying to figure out what's the key to help Colombia get to that next level. The first thing we need here is we need champions in the government. We need people that are believing in what we're doing. It's been really amazing to hang out with the Invest in Bogota team here this week too. They've been very supportive of many of the people from overseas coming to visit. But we need those champions and those people to be consistent and always be seeing the virtues of Colombia around the world. Very important. Broader tax incentives. We see many countries right now around the world that are being very competitive when it comes to providing tax incentives. My homeland of Canada has very aggressive tax incentives, and that's more aspirational. But it would be wonderful to see, and I know it's very difficult here with the smaller, shorter terms of government, but for them to provide more support so we can be more of a global force. I think it'd be fantastic to see that. More school participation. We've had the pleasure also of meeting with many of the schools here this week to talk about what the challenges are of getting students who love video games and want to make video games, but aren't being taught how to make video games in their schools. So I think this is a group effort. If we could all spend more time investing in talking to universities and schools here to make sure that the students are learning the right types of languages, more focus maybe on C++ and maybe assembly language and core things. Everyone's doing a wonderful job so far, but if we get a deeper integration and also more awareness, if the students know that there are many game options to work in game studios and there's more internships, then I think we're going to have a greater sort of growth over the future. But it takes a lot of effort, not just from the people in this room, from the school systems, building that thread between from studio to individual to the school that you went to. If you go back and you could visit and you can inspire some students, bring some interns from the school that you graduated with, teach them the things that you learned along the way, it'd be phenomenal to see the country grow even more from the inside. I think attracting outside talent is also important. Bring in people that have different perspectives, right? A lot of things I hear here in Colombia are that there are these super passionate people, but if they're not learning from other companies and other outsiders, right, maybe we could get further faster. If we can look at the best-in-class schools and universities, it'd be really nice for us to be able to clone those programs here in Colombia and expedite the process to level up the talent in the industry, right? So working more globally, making it feel, I mean, you've been all so welcoming to us this week. It's been amazing. But if we can do that more broadly, I think that'll be really important. And I think the final part of this part that's really important is just providing year-round support, right? Yes, Colombia 4.0, it's so nice for us to be here to celebrate together technology and video games. But providing year-round support at all of the variety of shows, from Gamescom in Germany and GDC in San Francisco and DICE in Las Vegas and many other shows around the world. If we get more year-round support from the government and many of the support structures, I think it'd be a lot more beneficial, right? But I want to bring it back because obviously those are the things that we could ask the government and everyone to participate in. But having spent time at PlayStation, I had the pleasure of working with the Latin American developer relations team and spending a lot of time both at LATAM DPS, which was our Destination PlayStation event, and Latin American dev studios. So I've met many of these people in this room today and many of the studios we've talked about 12 or 15 years ago. So it's been really fantastic for me to watch the growth. And when I talk to people here, there's a sense of pride. But I don't think they understand, many of you in this audience understand, how much of an impact you've had on me and many other people in the industry. So I'm going to take a few moments to tell you what you've taught me and how we can take what Colombia has taught the industry and maybe make it more worldwide. The first thing is the collaborative energy, right? And we have an example right over there, right? COVA, a coalition of studios and leaders. By the way, caveat, these slides are made on Midjourney, hence the reason this horrible PS4 logo is garbage tier and that is off-brand. So that's a warning. I figured if the conference has AI in it, why can't we use it? But I remember 2016, I was invited to speak at Colombia 4.0. And I'll never forget a dinner at Andres, DC, with 6 different studios there. And everyone's talking about sharing resources and sharing projects and talking about best practices. And that energy was palpable. There was no borders, there was no boundaries. It was all these people supporting one another, and I still see that to this day. I grew up in Vancouver, BC, which many think of Canada as one of the 2, big hubs. We have Montreal and Vancouver. Growing up in Vancouver, there was not a lot of collaboration. It was you either worked at EA, or you didn't, or you used to. Those are the 3 groups. So to see the spirit of these developers coming together to wanting to build something around the globe and not being competitive about it has been absolutely amazing. And I wish more of the games industry around the world would have this approach. The next thing is finding mentors, right? Finding people that you could look up to. You'd be amazed if you've managed to just start messaging people on LinkedIn or talk to them. Like Franco last night at a mixer came up to me and he said, I'm building a new studio. I'd love to talk to you about our project, right? Reaching out to people, they want to help you, right? And so it's important to ask, though, to approach people. It might not feel natural to you to go up to a stranger and ask them for help or to be a mentor. But finding mentors to help boost and grow and evolve, I think is very, very important. The next one is just keep moving forward. Resiliency, and this is a part of Latin American culture, but specifically Colombian culture that I love, is just persevering, moving forward, even when challenges you face, pushing up, having a vision, moving towards it. Pushing the boundaries, right? When you're up against something, when Sony says they can't ship you a development kit because you're in Colombia, or Microsoft, declines your submission, right? Keep pushing the boundaries, asking for help, trying to get their support. I think is very, very important. Failing fast and learning. A lot of times in our industry, I don't think we talk often about failure. right? It's okay. I've failed so many times in my life, I could fill an ocean with my failures. But that's super important because you fall down. You know, we were talking to Roberto from Timba Games the other night, and they were 65 people 2.5 years ago, and now they're 30, right? So challenges that you face as you go through your career and your growth, but it's okay, they're still here. They're still making great content, and they have big visions for the future, right? But they're learning as they go, just like all of us are. I think that's critical. I don't think many of you realize how much of an impact you've had on showing that, right? Showing that failure and then learning and growing over time. Being aspirational is critical. Reaching for the stars, having big visions. One of my favorite parts of this week was speaking with studios, and we said, where do you want to be in 5 years? And all of them, their eyes just lit up, and they would show us and talk to us about where they want to go and what they want to accomplish. And I love that. I love that just vision for the future, being able to see into the crystal ball and have big, audacious goals. It's amazing to see. And those big smiles and that passion is super important. To that point, showing your passion. I love getting pitches from Colombian studios because the passion is incredible, right? When they talk about how they made something or what the concept was, how it came to be, or the idea was. It's been amazing to watch that. And so that comes through. That's one of the reasons why you're attracting more people to come visit here in Bogota, is because you're showing the passion in your pitches. And also it comes through in the content that you're building, which is awesome. This is a tough one, right? Vulnerability is very, very important when you talk to building a team, building leadership, all of those things. So asking for help when you're in trouble is totally fine, right? Whether it's phoning a friend, and I've seen this here in Colombia, studios talking from one group to another, trying to help each other out, asking for help, being able to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. That's been most of my career, by the way. I don't know how I got a job at PlayStation, but I did. And when I got that job, and I didn't know what I was doing, I asked other people for help. When I joined Iron Galaxy Studios 8 years ago, they said, great, now we have someone who understands all the parts of a business. We would like you to take over human resources. I've never done that before, right? So I had to ask for help. That's an important part, I think, of being not only a great team member, but being a leader as well. The vulnerability, asking for help when you need the help. Paying it forward. This is what I love to see. When we put together mixers and these incredible senior people in the industry here in Colombia are taking their learnings and they're paying it forward to other people. I got a very special gift at my first job in the video games industry. I was working at Electronic Arts Canada, and I was asked to do a presentation for our general manager. And I was a QA tester, making $5.50 an hour Canadian, which is like, I think, $3.75 American. He asked me to do a presentation, and he was impressed so much that he started having a quarterly meeting with me. I was an assistant lead tester. I was meeting with the GM of the company. Super weird, right? It was so inspiring to me that someone would take the time out of their day to meet with me that for the rest of my career, I made sure to pay that forward. So at Iron Galaxy Studio, we have 300 employees across 3 locations, Orlando, Chicago, and Nashville. And every single employee's first week, they get to meet with me for an hour, and Chelsea, who's now the sole CEO, and Dave Lang, our founder. And that's because that time is super important. So when you see things that work well for you and really make a difference, try to pay that forward so you can sort of enhance the next generation of developers. I always say if you're proud of your studio, I always want the people at the company to start a better company down the road, learn from our mistakes, and then evolve and grow over time. Be patient. It takes time. Like I said, many of the studios here have been around for 12, 15, 18 years, and it's been a grind, right? Many times people will be 25 employees for 5 or 6 years, but that's okay because you're honing your skills, right? Being patient is very important, right? Learning from your mistakes, but also just calmly approaching the challenges, standing back up when you get knocked down, and being resilient. And I think the thing that I've always been inspired by, and I remember the first time I met Carlos from Dreams Incorporated, and he pitched me Chris Tales. He's like, I got a game. Yeah, he was just like so spun up. We're gonna go Kickstarter. It's the greatest thing. And then when Enrique from TerraVision pitched me a game, and Ivar from Effecto pitched me a game, all of those were memorable moments for me. And so I think what you all have to realize is how memorable you are as an industry here in Colombia, and what massive impact you have all around the globe, even though right now it's a small impact. So I think if we continue to take these lessons and pay them forward and work together as an industry, hopefully with more support from the government, wishes, fingers crossed, then we can grow to be a hub of the future of the video games industry together. And that, my friends, is how the future of video games will be made here in Colombia. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we have a bit of time. If not, that's okay too. All right. Oh, got one back there, Franco.
Hello? Yeah. Well, my question is, how hard you see for these companies like Microsoft or PlayStation, Nintendo to come here? Because as I know right now, Unity is a big supporter here in Colombia. Unity have only one office in Latin America, and it's here in Colombia, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
And how hard you see these companies to come here in Colombia? And how long you think will take?
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do think every time we see a company that expands here, it sort of helps the ecosystem. The challenge is sometimes it can have a negative impact on the short term around salary boosts and stuff like that, depending on what type of team they're trying to build. But the important part is it kind of goes like, if we talk to a bunch of students and they don't know that there's game developers in Colombia, that's problem one, right? Then they go, well, I'm playing FIFA, and maybe I want to, but if EA was here, I would totally, in an office, and I could apply there. Maybe that's a big deal. So I do think it's about awareness. That's a big problem, right? How do we create awareness with students that then could do the right training to get the right job, to grow the industry? I think it does take big companies, medium companies, small companies. No one wants to see a big multinational company storm in here and just suck up all the talent and pay them more, and people aren't fulfilled in their job, right? But I do think a really, really successful ecosystem has players from all the aspects of the industry. So that way you have positions, oftentimes at Iron Galaxy Studios, even though we're a larger independent studio, people come work with us for a bit, then they'll go to Riot for a bit, or Blizzard, then they'll come back sometimes. And so I think having people have more opportunities, because many people only want to join if they can work on their dream game, and then when they start working on their dream game, they realize it's not that fun. So maybe they want to go back and do independent stuff. So I think that ecosystem is important. I love that Konami and EA and Sony are here right now, and many other studios and companies have looked into Colombia. I think it's very important. Yeah, thank you.
So I currently work at a university in Cali, Colombia. Mm-hmm. And we're doing some VR, 2D, 3D games. And we're trying to improve the video games in the university. So we have some internships to work with us. But the university in general still thinks about video games as a leisure, something that people just play games and have fun, but not something to learn or something to work your life into.
Yeah.
How can we change that?
Well, my mom still thinks that. I haven't changed her mind, right? I've been doing this for 28 years, and she's like, he works at computers. It's awareness is part of it, right? If people don't take it seriously, it's because there isn't a breakout game or story. But having studios that have successful games help build the awareness. and that credibility. But it also, this goes back to the whole sort of theme, which is it takes a village. It takes all of us working together to understand it. It means more time between the studios and the universities. It means more awareness in the press and the government hopeful support, right, that can sort of bring that awareness. But also just education, right? People saying there is viable options. I mean, the Invest in Bogota team has been amazing about showing us statistics and all that thing, that all those data aspects that make it feel like this. I mean, we knew it was a real deal, but to be able to articulate stuff, I think, is important. I think the most important thing, though, if we could have everyone in this room that could go to a university and do a half-hour lecture to talk about their career and inspire those students to ask more questions, that this is viable, and here are the salary ranges, and here are the things you could do. But part of it, too, is it's not going to happen until bigger players come here and take it more seriously. So that's that balancing act that I talked about earlier, of like creating that balance between awareness and great talent forming. But two of my colleagues are right behind you, and they'd love to talk to you more about that, because we've been meeting with a lot of the universities to try to figure out. At Iron Galaxy, we, through our 3 locations, we realized that coming out of school, not everyone was prepared for modern PC and console development. So we went to the universities. In Orlando, we went to University of Central Florida, their FIA interactive program, which is second best in the US. In Nashville, we went to Vanderbilt and Louisville University to work with them and change their training. And then in Chicago, we went to DePaul, and Michigan State University is about just a 2-hour drive from Chicago. So those 5 schools now, we've integrated with them, and we know their curriculum and they know what we're looking for. And so we do internships from year 2, year 3, year 4 for undergrads, and then obviously for master's programs at UCF. So we've hired, I'd said it, out of our 300 employees, I'd say probably 100 of them are from one of those 5 schools because of the work we started to do 12 years ago, right? So it takes planting those seeds and taking time to mend the garden and make sure the growth is it's slow, but in the end, you can sort of build it into a superpower.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello. It's not a question, but I wanted to really underscore Adam. So if you don't know Adam, he has a huge amount of credibility in our industry. He's very modest. He's closed and opened our largest conferences. Sony is here. There are people from Sony here. Microsoft is here. I'm here. I'm from Microsoft. We are here. When I came here a week ago, I told my boss's boss, hey, I'm going to Colombia. Also, there's all these Sony people going. I'm not quite sure why they're going. And there's, a bunch of other developers and EAs going, and it creates a sense of FOMO in the industry. So I want to really reiterate things that Adam said. You have a unique ecosystem in that you are helping each other. I want to really reiterate that. The things that Adam says are really important for our ecosystem here. Their companies here are not looking over tent poles and peeking over the tent pole. You're actively helping each other. Kova, the university systems, the desire and need for us to have people that can feed a faster level of growth into the industries. I just literally have been saying the exact same thing. So want to really just not a question, but really reinforce Adam's message is, yeah, this is what I think as well. It's what everybody that is senior and veteran in the industry that's come here has said as well. We need government support, tax incentives, better schools. You guys need to come together. You are not competing against each other. You are competing against thousands of developers all across the world. So as a person who comes from Montreal, which is an ecosystem that is highly cooperative and collaborative, I see that here too. That is a sign that this space, this area, has a potential for growth. So that was my only comment.
Thank you.
Sorry for
great speech.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, we can close on that. I'll be more than happy to close on that. Thank you, everyone. Oh, we have a question back here. Oh, we have a lawyer in the audience.
Hi, Adam. Great talk. Loved
you.
it. I just want to make a really quick question. I've seen many studios in, around Colombia and Latin America. They really depend upon rendering services, as third-party studios. how would you say will be maybe the safest or a sustainable way for these studios to, kind of invest in their own IP? Because I think that that's one of the things that we're missing in Colombia, despite having great games, which I know we have, but we still need to put some more IP out there. So what would you recommend, to the studios that are thinking about, perhaps investing a little bit more of their time and resources to bring it out an IP?
That's a great question, because I think that's one thing I didn't even touch on is that the games that are made here, the IPs that are built here, can't be built anywhere else on planet Earth, right? So being able to express those creative experiences is absolutely critical. The problem is the timing right now is the worst it's almost been in my career in 28 years. The funding for new intellectual properties is at the lowest point it's been. And so it's very challenging. So we see a lot of studios that have a vision of a game they want to make. There are still companies signing projects, but it's harder, and especially when you're from Colombia, which doesn't have as much sort of global awareness. Sometimes you might be competing against a studio in Montreal or a studio in the UK that has a lot more credibility and history. I think the advantage is that it is a unique perspective and point of view. And oftentimes because they haven't shipped as many games, that's also a knock against them. So unfortunately, I still think we're in this frozen tundra phase for the next 12 to 24 months before the funding will crank up. But I do see, back to the resiliency slide, I see studios right now pivoting to co-dev or doing hybrid, where they're doing some IP development and some co-development. So I think that's a good way to sort of just keep warm in these cold times. But I think that's going to be special. When the thaw starts, the first thing people are going to look for are unique experiences. And like I said, no one can make more unique experiences than people in this room and in this country. So I'm hopeful once the thaw starts, it'll be more active. But right now, it is really trying to help one another, try to inform, get a lawyer, look at your contracts. It's okay if you make mistakes when you do business dealings, but it is important to be aware of that, of the business, issues and challenges you may face. All right.
Hey, Adam, it's me. A question for you, and I'd like to highlight that it's also for the other guys of the industry that are here. With the, I don't want to say intrusion, but with the introduction of AI into the video gaming industry, what do you think are the trends that are going to be developed in the next few years? How can that impact, I know it's a complex thing, but how can that impact countries or continents like Latin America, Colombia, in terms of that migration of talent into the industry and introduction of new agents and development of talent? And how is the industry preparing for this? I know it has begun because AI has been here for a couple of years now in at least mainstream media and anything. So
yeah.
I don't know, basically that. Thank you.
That's a 7-hour seminar I'm doing next week online. No, it's a really good question, and it's a complicated question because it's a complicated answer. AI is providing access to tool sets that can help people work faster, right? This talk, I started the outline of it when I turned ChatGPT. I was stuck in traffic. I turned ChatGPT on. I said, log my conversation with you, and we're going to build slides to build a foundation for this deck that I'm building. Here's the audience. Here's where we're looking. And again, it would have probably taken me 8 or 10 hours to do that on my own. But the fact that I have a conversation at the end, it sort of showed me the layout, and then I sort of evolved from that. So that's an example of a tool that didn't replace anyone that would do that job. These slides are a great example. I would have never hired an artist to make these slides. I would have grabbed free open source imagery, but in telling a story, I wanted there to be visual symmetry between the imagery. And yes, the prompt was like Disney, Pixar, Colombian student saying this and doing that, right? So some people could say, hey, what are you doing putting people out of work? But this is a non-zero sort of trade-off. I think there's a lot of fear in things we don't understand, right? Whenever people's jobs or their livelihood can be negatively impacted, it's okay and it's correct for us to be worried and be fearful. But I think oftentimes the rhetoric then swings to we should never allow it in anything we do, right? I'm a personal guy that I'm not a hugely narrative person. So when I'm doing mini quests in a game, if you just had some AI agent build 100 mini quests where I'm just getting an ogre a sandwich to open the door to the cave, or it's gibberish, it doesn't matter to me. But I think it's going to attract certain types of gamers to certain types of experiences. I do think we should be cautious about the adoption of it, right? Like I would never ship a game with this kind of really bad Atom Boys mid-journey art prompts. So how do we balance it in the correct manner where it enhances what we do or expedites what we do versus being fearful and banning it or barring it, right? So approaching it with curiosity around what the tools can do to help us. But it's also, I mean, there's a lot of loaded sort of aspects and secondary parts of that within. I know there's a lot of controversy around voiceover actors and music creation and art creation and model creation. I think we have to sort of go eyes wide open to make sure that those things aren't, negatively impacting it. But if we can sort of like I'm a person that I use AI tools a lot in my day-to-day just because I'm, a one-person show and it's really difficult sometimes. Obviously we have a lot of people at Iron Galaxy, but sometimes I want to jam on an idea or a concept on my own. And I get better results because my ADHD brain just allows me to go back and forth. But that's not for everyone. I think nothing will ever replace. It's kind of like we have machines that can make burgers, but we're not letting the machines make the burgers, right? We're still going to restaurants. Food's been around for hundreds of years, and robots have been around for, let's say, 50. We're still eating handmade things. We were joking the other night having some amazing cocktails. I'm like, people are manually mixing these amazing drinks, and it tastes better because there's that human experience. I think we're going to be able to sense that in games, the handcrafted nature of things. When things are handcrafted, handmade by incredibly talented people, AI will never replace that, right? Great question, though, and very complicated. Again, I could spend somewhere else. Thank you. All right. Oh, one up here.
Hello. So this is more of a request and a question at the same time. But like here in Colombia, we tend to overlook the business outside, So no, people at Sony use their own custom engine, and we use Unreal or whatever. So my question is more about how do you feel like people in Colombia should level up if we don't have access to, I don't know, Sony custom engine? We have to use other tools that they are used, but sometimes they are not used on big triple super big productions. And maybe we don't have, I don't know, a super senior programmer come here to teach us something that's not possible. So yeah, how do you think people should level up having the cheapest possible assets?
Sure.
And yeah, the request is also please keep coming back. Thanks.
What's that?
My request is just keep coming back. This is such a richful experience, and thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, already, we all want to, tell everyone to come back to the show and support the region. The other question about engine, it's a complicated answer because there is so many engines that have so much access to so many tool sets that are built within it. I talked earlier about finding a mentor. I think it's totally fine for a studio to find an actual big brother or big sister studio. When you fly into a country or a city and it says this is a sister city of this one, this one, this one. Because the industry is under such sort of troubled times right now, I think you would find dozens of studios around the world that would love to mentor people on a team. And so if you create that partnership, we at Iron Galaxy have been trying to find what's a great sort of studio that we can partner up with to help learn from, take the passion and vision from the Colombian, developer, and then also bring a little bit about that Iron Galaxy, what we've learned in our time. So I think you can find the individual mentors, but finding a team of mentors or a group of people, because I guarantee you, every studio out there has done a talk on some technical aspect, and that tech director or that tech manager or that programmer lead has that talk sitting in a folder and would love to give it again. That's 1 hour of their time, right? So one of the things we started to do at Iron Galaxy is ask other studios, do you have any topics you've been doing talks about? Can you just do it for us? And do a lunch and learn, right? So there's so many studios. We would love to do that. If you want to take us up on it, we'd love to do that presentation for you and your team of just one of the topics we've covered. And maybe that starts spurring those questions. Because I think that looking outside the country, it's not about stealing ideas, it's about sharing and growing and evolving and learning from our mistakes. If we can help you avoid some of the pitfalls we've fell into, all the better, right? Instead of you having to fall and figure it out on your own. So reach out to people. We'd love to, follow up with us and just find partners that want the same vision. Because the thing about our industry that I love and I'm always inspired every day is we got each other's backs, right? When a studio closure happens, we're all shedding a tear. It's not like, ha ha. It's like, this is really bad. What can we do to help? So if we know that there's people that want help, there's a lot of people that want to give help, right? And I think that's an important part of our industry that's very special and unique. So use it. Because I bet if you LinkedIn messaged or DM'd people, 20 people, I bet you'd be surprised at how many people respond. If you say, I'd love your help. We're trying to get better at the studio. We're trying to learn more of this, more of that. So it's not always about the tool set. It's not about just picking Unity or a custom engine, because you'll never get the Gorilla Horizon engine, right? It's about how they adopted their learnings to build that was special for them, right? Cool.
Hello.
Hi.
First, I wanted to tell you that I love your presentation. It hits a lot about the inspirational side of the industry, like trying to lift our emotions up. And I wanted to ask, in what strategies do you have to participate in this future of the industry as a solo developer? Yes, and not to get the big hit with millions of copies sold, but rather to have enough to live until the next project, and yes, having good projects so they can sell enough for keep going with it as a solo developer.
Yeah, that's a very, very challenging question because there's a million ways in which you could travel, right? There's so much training for free on YouTube or within a lot of these sort of like think tanks or within Unity tool sets and Unreal and stuff like that you can watch and learn, and so many amazing talks in the GDC Vault to sort of teach yourself as you go. But it really comes back down to there are more games published every day and every week than ever before, right? And the question I often ask developers that are building something, it goes back to my slide about wishful thinking. Who are you building this for, right? And if you're building it for yourself, that's okay, right? If you're okay being a hobbyist, building things on the side, maybe you have a full-time job and you're just trying something out, maybe one day you build the Stardew Valley and you don't have to worry about, flipping burgers anymore because you build something really special and different. But the tens of thousands of games that are released every year, it's very difficult to break out, right? I'm not trying to say that to dissuade anyone from going on that journey, but it's the realistic sort of counterpoint that you can't expect any of your things to maybe ever pay bills. You keep trying. But the important part is if you can surround yourself, find a Discord of other independent developers that can ask you questions and challenge you, whether it's not just mentors, but it's also peers, asking people for feedback, right? And try not to ask your parents because they're usually very supportive. I love it. It's great. You're like, no, I want real talk. Give me some real talk. So surrounding yourself with people to support, because I think that community and that village approach that has worked so well here in Colombia is the same in the independent sort of developer space. So finding those people in those communities, I think, is critically important and to keep you motivated. It's hard to do things alone, right? So how do you, between the learning from watching videos, a lot of this, by the way, is just a PowerPoint presentation that I built with no animations. I just morphed target between the slides and moved everything behind the scenes because I watched about 2 hours of TikTok videos about how to make PowerPoints a little bit better. So again, that self-learning thing I think is really important. The tools are out there, but find the people that can help keep you motivated, and then have the ideas come from wherever you bring them from, and then keep going, right? And keep trying. And sometimes it's okay if you set a time limit. I'm going to make a couple games, and I'm going to maybe work at a bigger company. Sometimes people go work at bigger companies for a bit to learn how to do it, spin out, come back. The world's your oyster.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. All right. Thank you all for all the time and the questions. Amazing. Appreciate it. Thank you.